Hi guys, in this video we're reviewing how to solve inequalities. That's problems like a less than or greater than or equal to or so forth. In these problems we're solving the inequality and then graphing the solution. So solving this similar to an equation, we're going to combine our like terms right there. So negative 2, copy down that symbol. 4x minus 6x is negative 2x. So now when I divide this by negative 2 and negative 2, then the x is by itself. But here the rule is that when you divide by a negative with inequalities, then this symbol right here, this symbol of a less than, flips and becomes a greater than. So that's going to flip. Okay? So I'm just going to write the word flip here because I divided both sides by a negative. That's multiplying or dividing by a negative is when that flip happens. Okay, now if I read this from right to left, I would be writing it as x, from x's perspective, is less than 1. So writing it from left to right, we'll write similarly, x is less than 1. Okay, so then on the number line we will put an open circle on the 1, meaning that it cannot equal 1, and we're going to shade the values which are less than 1, which happens to be to the left. Next problem, combining like terms, negative 3 plus 8, n plus 5, less than or equal to 7, so take away 5 from both sides, n is less than or equal to 2. So here's 2. It can equal to it, so I'll darken it. I'm darkening all the values that it can equal, and I'm darkening the values less than 2 that it can equal. Next problem, combining like terms. I'll just copy down that symbol. Then I have r minus 4r, so negative 3r minus 5. When I add 5 to both sides, okay, then I'll have negative 18 is negative 3r, divide by negative 3. I'm dividing both sides by negative 3, so that's our flip situation. We're going to have r, and instead of it being less than, it'll be greater than or equal to 6. Reading it right to left, I have r is greater than or equal to 6. So left to right, r greater than or equal to 6. Here's 6, it can't equal to it, and all the values greater than or equal to 6. In this problem, I first have to distribute the negative 4. Okay, so then I'll have 8 minus 12v is equal to 104 is actually less than or equal to net 104. Okay, so take away the 8. I'll have 96. Our symbol in negative 12v. So when I divide by negative 12 to both sides, then I'll have v. 96 divided by negative 12 is negative 8, but we divided by the negative to both sides, so that's our flip situation, and we'll have greater than or equal to negative 8, so I'll write v is greater than or equal to negative 8. Here's negative 8, it can equal to negative 8, and we're shading all the values greater than it. Here if we distribute the 6 plus 30n greater than 186. If we take away 6 to both sides, 30n is greater than 180. So divide by 30, and n is greater than 6. So here's 6. It cannot equal 6, but it can be greater than. Here we want to first simplify the right side of the equation. So I'll copy down the left side. It's actually an inequality. 168. Distributing the negative 4, we'll have negative 28 minus 24n minus another 4n. So going further, we'll have negative 28 minus 28n is negative 168. Okay, so if we add 28 to both sides, so add 28, we'll have negative 140 is negative 28n, and we have n here on the right side, and we divided by the negative 28, divided by negative 28, so that's where our flip happens. And so we're going to flip it back this way, which can be read right to left as n is greater than 5. So writing it as n is greater than 5. Here's 5, and we're greater than 5. On this problem, if we first simplify the inequality, I'll bring down my symbol. 5k minus 6k right here is negative k. Negative 3k minus 2. Okay, so if I add 3k to both sides, I'll have 2k. Here's my symbol, negative 2. So dividing by 2, I'm dividing by a positive. So I'm not going to flip my value. K is less than or equal to negative 1. Reading that left to right. So I'll write it as k less than or equal to negative 1. Here's negative 1. It can be equal to, but it also could be less than. For this problem, if I take away 5p from both sides, then I'll have p minus 7 is less than 1. So if I add 7 to both sides, p is less than 8. Reading it right to left, so p is less than 8. Reading it left to right. Here's 8. It cannot be equal to, so we're not going to darken it. And we're darkening the values less than 8 that p actually can be. In this problem, we have a compound inequality, meaning we have two inequalities together. A plus 3 is both less than or equal to 4, and a plus 3 is greater than negative 6, reading it right to left. Okay, so we can solve both of these together at once. I could subtract 3 to all three sides of the inequality, in which case I'll get a is greater than negative 9, and it's also less than or equal to 1. Okay, so here's 1. It can be equal to 1, so it's darkened. Here's negative 9. It cannot be equal to negative 9, but it can be all of those values right in between those. So those are the possible values of a. For this problem, I can add 10 to all three parts of the inequality. So then I'll have negative 20, my symbol, negative 2b, symbol, and 12. Okay, then dividing all of those parts by negative 2. This time I'm going to have a double flip. I'm going to have to flip both of those symbols of the compound inequality. So b, instead of being greater than or equal to, is going to be less than or equal to 10 and greater than negative 6. But usually that's written that it's greater than negative 6 and less than or equal to 10. In other words, it's between negative 6 and 10. It can equal 10, but it cannot equal negative 6. It can equal 10. And it's all those values in between.